Hi, so I'm going to talk about something that might sound like a bit of psychobabble when I first say it, that we all have an expressive trauma. I think we do. It's not like, the same in every person. Some people might have a worse expressive trauma, and some people might have a very mild one. It depends on our experiences as children and our parenting. But I want you to consider something first, and it's this. It's that music is not really civilized. Now, what on earth do I mean by that? It's something that I used to think about as a child quite often when I was, rather rebelliously practicing in my own way and not really doing what my teacher wanted. I would think all music sounds a bit punk. And when I say punk, I'm old, so I'm talking about the punk of the late '70s, Sex Pistols, Sid Vicious, all that lot. Yeah, it's there's something a bit sort of crazy about it. Obviously, I mean, I say obviously, if you've heard any of my music, you'll get why I'm saying obviously. I'm no punk musician, but there's still something about that attitude of like defiance that's so important. So music is not really civilized because it's expressing real feelings. It's expressing something something deep. It's not like words express concepts. Words express, they can describe material reality, they can point to feelings. Obviously we have feeling words, but music doesn't even sort of really point to it. As someone once said, it's kind of like intravenous feeling. It kind of goes straight in, it goes straight into us, and we feel it without having to kind of work anything out, translate, without having to look up any big words or anything like that. Music just hits us, a whole body, our whole soul. Music has that power. So now consider that as toddlers, as little 2, 3 year olds, we were naturally very loud, very expressive, very, very playful. And we had to stop that, didn't we? If we're in a supermarket and we want something, we see something we like, the natural behavior of a 3 year old is to really kick off, is to really get upset if the adult that we're with doesn't give us what we want. Um, and the process that we go through, and this repeats obviously, is that we learn that it's not okay to express what we feel. It isn't even necessarily that that 3 year old is all that bothered about the thing that they're getting really upset about. It's just that they feel very upset and just want to express it. When babies do that, we let them, of course. So up to that point in our life, if we're upset, we just cry. But there's a certain point, a certain age can vary as well, depending on even the way a child looks, or the kind of parents obviously that they have and the expectations. Certain point in a very young life where the big people around us, they start telling us that it's not okay to express our feelings, not okay to use our voice. I teach singing as well as piano, and it's a strange experience for us. It's quite probably traumatic. I use the word. I know everyone talks about trauma nowadays, and maybe I'm seemingly jumping on that bandwagon, but no, it's kind of a trauma, and it's a necessary one, right? Otherwise, we'd be very overexpressive adults that would not be civilized. I couldn't play, I couldn't behave, in the civilized world. I couldn't go out into the world and behave in with as much outward expression as I am doing when I play a lot of music. A lot of, especially sort of classical romantic music, is very, very big feelings, and you express it. If I'm playing a Chopin ballad or something like that, that's an enormous amount of kicking off, as a lot of amount of really letting rip and letting your feelings be expressed. I couldn't possibly do that. I love to improvise. My thing is to improvise my feelings and sort of spontaneously say what I feel. And it's not in a way, and I'm going to use another psychobabble word now, it's not really necessarily what me as an adult, civilized adult is feeling. It's more what me as a child, as an inner child, almost like an inner toddler that is kind of still there. I still have those feelings, and they come out through the music. And this, this shift that we experience is traumatic. And music, I suppose, is the thing for me personally that I use in a way, I would say, to heal that trauma. Now, obviously, teaching fluency in the language of music as I do, this means that we have to, in a sense, find authenticity, or to find an uncensored, unfiltered version of ourselves, this inner toddler, to be fluent. Because the reason I say that is because, well, to be fluent, we have to say what we mean. I think you would find this learning a language as well. I mean, I'm not fluent in any other language than English. I'm not bad at languages, but I've never reached the level of fluency. I imagine to really reach fluency in any language, and this is borne out by the linguists that I know and I've talked to about this, you really have to express yourself. You also have to want to hear and understand, but you have to express yourself. You have to express yourself genuinely and not be concerned about how you look and whether you're saying it right and stuff like that. You have to find that courage to just express and say it, and obviously also to want to receive the information. I think we already do that with music. We receive music, so music feeds our souls beautifully. I think I've rarely met anybody who says, "Oh no, music's all right, but it doesn't do a lot for me." Most people agree. I sometimes say very dramatic things that are very true for me, like music saved my life. Very few people are shocked by that. They don't kind of go, "What? Music? That's crazy." They get it. So music is this amazing thing that we all love, and we understand the language of music when we're listening to it. Kind of intuitively we understand it. But I'm teaching people to sort of use a model to be able to express the language of music effortlessly and fluently, and that does require that we express those feelings that I suppose we can hide when we're listening. We might have the tears coming down our cheeks, but we don't have to sort of outwardly say it. Whereas as soon as you're singing or playing, you are outwardly saying this thing, as long as it's fluent. This is the thing. It has to be fluent. And because that's what I teach. It doesn't have to be fluent. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with using the performance model of music, which is the one I don't teach, and that's the normal one that's out there, various forms of it. But yeah, music is generally taught as using a kind of performance model. I teach fluency. So to do it fluently, to actually do musical fluency, you've got to find that inner trauma. You've got to find your inner child. You've got to work to overcome or face that trauma and express deep childlike feelings authentically, deep childlike feelings authentically. And this is difficult, or can be for many of us, because we've learned to hide these deep, dark, childlike feelings and put on a kind of performance. That's not to say that, I'm being very civilized now using language. That's not to say I'm being false in this performance. But if I suddenly started to express something really, really, what would seem like inappropriately deep and dark, I think it'd be better to do it in music. You know what I mean? It would probably work better for me personally. I think some people have the ability to perform these feelings, and they can make that connection. I have a rather unkind phrase that I use to describe that ability. I call it a dark side ability, because it seems very dark to me. I don't think I can authentically perform these feelings. I have to actually say them. Now, what's the difference between performing them and saying them? Well, I think when we perform, for most of us, as I say, there might be some exceptions to this, some mysterious dark skills that one or two people have. But I think for most of us, when we perform something, we're not really feeling it. So I could decide that, what my sort of slightly unassuming way of doing these videos is wrong. And what I really should be doing is performing them. I could be more like this. Hi, guys. Today we're going to talk about, you've got it, the expressive trauma. But that kind of wouldn't be me. And I don't really feel like that. So that's why I don't do it. I mean, obviously, it might get more followers. Obviously, it might not. I don't know. But it's not me. I'm not going to do it. It doesn't feel good. It would kind of burn me out as well. I get really exhausted having to sort of perform all the time. So we perform what we don't feel, and we're reluctant to express sometimes what we do. We get into that pattern. So it can be quite a blockage to work on, and it can be a very interesting and deep dive for students. And so it's all about learning to feel safe. And the model makes us safe. I think particularly the way I teach the structure of the groove, learning to let the groove carry you. Letting yourself be carried by the groove. Say it like that. That's tremendously reassuring. I think when you surrender to it, it can be hard to give yourself that permission. But I suppose it's like a parachute or something. It's hard to jump out of an aeroplane, but at least you've got a parachute. And I suppose with enough practice, you start to trust that the parachute will open, it will work. So you can jump, you can make that leap. So the model of the musical language that I teach gives you some safety, but it doesn't give you enough. You've also got to do something else as well as focus moment by moment on this model of musical language. You also have to actively let go to overcome this trauma. And letting go, I sometimes talk about defying our gremlins, defying the thoughts in our head that tell us that we need to perform less authentically in order to feel safe. We have to learn to defy them. And as I said, it's quite a journey. It's a skill. I think in some ways it's a very different skill from, in a way, learning to just perform inauthentically. Letting go and performing authentically is different. And I think it's a bit like method acting, as opposed to people who have the ability to just sort of pretend. It's not pretending in the same way. And I think for most of us, pretending in that way, as I said before, is difficult. So yeah, it's a journey. It's an interesting journey, and it can be a deep dive, because we're going right back to that trauma. We're going right back to the age of 2 or 3 when we were told that we had to shut up and be good.